Today we'll be looking at Idaho Forest Gold. Idaho Forest Gold is our premium high-grade product. It's the best of what we produce here in the inland Northwest. It's structurally strong, visually pleasing, a very tight ring count, small knot size, just a beautiful product for most any application. The production of Idaho Forest Gold begins with the forest. Here in our Intermountain region, we're blessed to have many different species, all of the fir species, pines, cedar, any kind of a conifer tree for your application. We have deep, rich, fertile soils and an abundance of rainfall. We tend to have fairly long winters, which gives us a shorter growing season, but that also lends to our Forest Gold. It gives us a tight ring count, very visually pleasing lumber, a small knot size, a small amount of taper in our timber. All of these combine to give us the Idaho Forest Gold product that we're so proud of. Before harvesting a stand, our forestry staff will go through the timber and evaluate the trees to look for those that are most likely to give us our Idaho Forest Gold products. We'll look for ring count, we'll look for knot size, for diameter and taper, all the characteristics that go into our premium high-grade products. Once the trees have been selected for harvest and the evaluation of the high-grade timber has been accomplished, then the harvesting operation begins. The feller bunchers or other sawing equipment move in to begin taking the trees down, taking great care not to damage anything along the way. Once the timber has been felled, then the skidding machines move in and they transfer the timber to our landing area to be processed into log lengths. Now that the timber is at the landing, then the processor operator takes over. Each stem is looked at individually. The processing head strips the limbs off, measures the length and diameter of the stem, and cuts it into a merchantable log length. Once the stems have been manufactured into a log length form, they're then sorted and placed in different piles depending on their species, their diameter, and their length. This is where the first sort for a premium high-grade product would take place on the landing. Those species, those logs that would be suitable for high-grade products would be placed into a separate pile. Now that the logs have been sorted, then they'll be loaded onto trucks, and our premium high-grade product will head to one of our 4 manufacturing facilities for processing into our Idaho Forest Gold products. Once the load arrives at one of our locations, the load of logs is unloaded and spread for viewing and inspection by one of our log scalers. This is a very important process in that the log scaler will evaluate the merchantable board footage on each load, but also they will make a determination which logs will be destined for premium high-grade products. We will now move to our Chilco operation to begin the milling process. We have just recently completed a major upgrade of the merchandiser at that location. The merchandiser debarks the logs and cuts them into usable lengths for sawing. As each deck is released for milling, the logs are loaded onto the merchandiser infeed and begin their trip through the mill. The logs are first debarked and then computer scanned for not only length and diameter, but also log form. A solution for bucking or sawing the logs into blocks for the mill is calculated. Our new optimization equipment calculates the cutting solution that will yield the best combination of both lumber value and total log utilization. Once the logs are cut into the best combination of usable lengths, they are directed into the mill for processing. Depending on diameter, they will go to either the large log or the small log breakdown equipment. The blocks will be computer scanned and positioned for best results. Once the block has been scanned and properly positioned, the actual sawing can begin. The necessary jacket boards are taken off of either side, and the center cant or heart of the log is presented to a gang saw for the major breakdown. Now that the block has been broken down into its rough lumber form, each of those pieces will be trimmed if necessary and then stacked and transported to the dry kilns for drying. All through this process, we have quality control people that are constantly checking the boards at each of the machine centers to make sure that our tolerances are in line and that the boards are being properly manufactured. Our rough green lumber is then transported to the dry kilns for drying down to its final moisture content. This is a very important part of our process, and our state-of-the-art kilns and highly trained operators do a fine job of drying all of our lumber properly. Once properly dried, then the lumber would be released to the planer for final processing and grading. The first step in this process would be to plane or finish the lumber down to its final form. Once planed, then the boards pass before our lumber graders. This is the most important part of the planing operation, as the lumber graders will look at each board. They'll make a determination if they're good as is, if they need to be trimmed or otherwise remanufactured, and they'll give them a grade stamp. Each board will be given a stamp that will determine whether it will go into our high-grade product or into some other product. Now that the board receives its grade stamp, the final step is to be placed into a unit, depending on grade, and then stacked and wrapped for final shipment. The finished lumber is then stacked and packaged for shipment, and those pieces that are still graded Idaho Forest Gold at this step, at the end of the process, the best of the best, are segregated into their own piles to receive the Idaho Forest Gold wrapping, and they're ready for truck or rail shipment worldwide.